Yo, damn, got the whole squad here today. The whole Facet squad, dude. A big day to celebrate. A lot of stuff happening in the space. Magic Eden with a incredible token launch. I tried to claim. It seemed to be pretty broken for the most part. Adam, were you able to claim Christmas that came early?
Bro, well, first of all, I haven't done that many transactions, so I'm probably not getting like uber rich from this. And second, they asked, you had to do it on your phone. And I just, from a security standpoint, I saw that. I was like, I'm out. It would be different if it was like, if I knew I was going to have at least a few grand, but I don't think I do. I'd probably have a few $100 or something. And it's like, dude, is it worth it to me to import my private seed into my, my keys into a mobile wallet? And I can't motivate myself to do it, man. I'm too terrified to do that sort of stuff. So I'm out.
Well, that's
Chris. Chris, how was your experience?
Pretty good. I think, for better or worse, I think that, just like Adam said, you can count on a lot of people disqualifying themselves from the airdrop. And I think that they counted on that. They excluded a bunch of users, meaning that the allotment is going to be a lot bigger for the rest of the community. And I saw that all of the unclaimed Magic Eden tokens will be re-released to stakers. So the stakers are going to get huge staking bonuses from that. Jake, if you're having problems staking or just claiming, I think one thing that they didn't clarify that was super important is that you need some Solana in that claim wallet. So it just doesn't tell you that you need any. And then the button wasn't hitting for me. So
that was what was happening for me, is the button wasn't pressing.
Yeah, then you just had to add a little Solana. For some reason, they didn't mention that, but that's all you have to do. And then you can claim pretty easily. But decent experience. The app, I mean, I like that they forced people to use the app. I don't like that they made you claim or link everything. But if you're a business, you want app downloads, right? That's what you're going for. So
it's totally smart move. I mean, it's smart business
from their business and from their business interests. It makes a ton of sense. Obviously, from OPSEC and maybe some security vulnerabilities, it's a little bit chaotic, but they're giving people thousands of dollars for free. The minimum that they can ask from people is to download an app. But all in all, good experience, and I think that this is just another green flag for the industry. So I think the following months are going to be kind of hot.
Yeah, I got one final question, then we'll roll into the even bigger event today.
Yes, sir.
What percentage of Magic Eden, I guess, rewards do you think is going to funnel back into meme coins and NFTs and ordinals? You think we get like at the airdrop, I think was supposed to be around 600 million. What percentage of that do you think funnels back into degen plays?
I think that the airdrop meta is that everyone knows the game by now. I think everyone sells the airdrop at some point in the next month-ish. And how do they accumulate these tokens? They bought digital assets, and I think that that's going to continue. So I think people have learned the airdrop meta. I don't think people are going to hold a ton of this. And I think ordinals, Solana NFTs are the kind of, and runes are kind of the most obvious ones to me.
Fuck yeah. I feel the same as well. Well, guys, I'm excited to have this conversation. It feels like a family. We get to have the Facet conversation it seems like every quarter now. The awesome part is that there's steady progress every time we get to catch up here. Excuse me. And this time we have Facet launch. I believe about an hour ago, I saw that it was supposed to launch in an hour. Tom, are we live now with Facet or V2?
Tom, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So we are live. But really what we'd like to talk about is more on the Magic Eden air. No, we are live. Facet is a new protocol. Honored to be sharing the stage with Magic Eden and with you all. As you say, you and the Emblem Ball community has really been with us for a long time and heard us out. And we really appreciate that. We were on the show talking crazy stuff about what we were planning to do and was it even going to happen and what did it even mean. And now we're back and we did it, or at least we did the first step to it, which is we launched Facet. Okay, what is Facet for all those out there who are interested? So Facet is an Ethereum rollup. Okay, so there are like 150 of those right now. You can look at them on L2B. You can scroll. You can keep scrolling. So why create an Ethereum rollup? Well, Facet's actually very different and completely unique in this way, which is that every L2 rollup that you see on L2B that you use is designed for a specific use case. And that use case is use it when times are good times, right? You see a lot of these L2, all these L2, these rollups are good times rollups. You can use them in good times and they're great. What is good times? Good times is when you are on the same team as the admin of the rollup. So if you use Base, I always pick on Base because I like Base the best, basically, but this applies to all of them. If you are on the same team as Coinbase and you're using Base and Coinbase has your back, well, it's going to be a great experience. It's going to be fast. It's going to be secure. It's going to work great. But if times are hard, Coinbase turns on you. I don't think they will because they are good people, I think. But who knows? You have shareholders. There's government entities. There are all kinds of people out there who might not have your back and might force other people to turn on you. And if times are not so good, if times are hard, and you're using one of the hundreds of L2s that are out there on L2B, you are in big trouble. You're in big trouble because the admin of the rollup can censor your transactions, can stop you from being able to transact at all, can prevent you from being able to withdraw your money. And really, in the limit case, they can shut down the roll-up. They can just shut the whole thing down, meaning that all of your assets that you can't get off, will be lost. And this is the price you pay for the convenience. Facet is very different. The point of Facet is it is a roll-up built for hard times, meaning that you don't have to trust anyone to use it. It might be fun to trust the creators. We're charming, but you don't have to. And you can hate us, actually. You can think we hate you. We don't hate you. But the point is, no matter what happens, no person has power to mess with your experience on Facet. No one can shut off your transactions. No one can steal your money. And overall, it's just a roll-up where everyone has to play by the same rules because there's no one who has power over you. So this works in practice in two main ways. One way is you have control over your transactions. And what that means is part of the convenience of using a traditional roll-up like Base is that you don't have control of your transactions. You give your transaction to the L2 admin, the sequencer, and they will then post your transaction to Ethereum so it can be finalized. And this is really convenient because it gives you short block times and all this kind of stuff. But it does mean that the operator of the L2, the admin, can censor your transactions. And Facet cut that out. Facet has so-called base sequencing, meaning anyone can create a Facet transaction just by creating a normal Ethereum transaction. There's no intermediary. So if you are trying to accomplish something on Facet, no one can stop you as long as you have access to Ethereum. The other main thing that is a problem on L2s is bridging. And bridging refers to trying to use, your outside asset, like your L1 asset, on the L2, like being able to use Ether that's on L1 Ethereum on an L2. And bridging has all kinds of problems because there are these really big challenges in communicating the L1 to the L2 and back and forth. And there are all kinds of proof systems. You've heard of fault proofs. There's zero-knowledge proofs. There's all kinds of proof systems. There are all kinds of great ideas here. But in the end, these bridges are controlled by admins. They are upgradable by admins. Most of the time, these upgrades are designed to help users in the case of a bug. They are also necessary to evolve the protocol, but it means some people have power. Now, that's actually fine if people have power, right? Because that's how it works on Ethereum. If you are USDC, you've got power if you run USDC. If you run USDT, you've also got power. Maybe one's better than the other. But the point is Ethereum doesn't give you that power. You have to earn it. The problem with rollups is that the rollup protocol gives the admin this power by saying, hey, here's this bridge that everyone has to use to pay gas. Facet is different. Facet has a different mechanism here, which is a new token that we created, a fair launch token that is a mineable token, so that if you want to do a transaction on Facet, you pay gas in a token that you can get without having to go through an intermediary, without having to talk to a bridge that is run by an operator. There are bridges on Facet that are operated by bridge admins, and those bridges are great. Like, for example, the bridges we run. But the point is you don't have to use any bridge to use Facet. You can use it without bridging. And that's why it's permissionless in this way. So anyway, this is a lot on Facet. But the point is it's singular and it's cool and you should check it out. You can try it. Anyway, docs.facet.org, but that's a lot.
Yeah, you're just in time for the second round of token season in this bull market. Over the last week, we've seen Emblem. We announced our token, right? You guys now have your token live. There's all the big projects are launching tokens, so it's a perfect time to have this go live. As speculation continues to increase over the next 18 months or so. From a technical question, before I do dive into kind of the tokenomics here. What is this like the upgrade from, I guess, V1 to V2? There's this post on here on one of your recent tweets where it says the final Facet or final legacy Facet block, and then there's this transition to the Facet EVM mainnet. What is actually happening there on the back end, and are all of the assets that were issued on Facet V1, are those migrating or moving to V2?
That's a great question. So just some background there. Facet launched about a year ago exactly in a very different form. It was based on e-scriptions, which is a different mechanism for conveying information than the EVM uses, and was a whole thing, and was awesome to build, but it was a custom it was a very, very custom protocol and not something that we felt was going to get the type of adoption we needed. So we rewrote everything according to the EVM rollup standards so that anyone can copy and paste their smart contracts and use Facet. But we had this problem, which is, as you say, there was a lot of assets on V1 Facet, a lot of native assets plus bridged assets. And so we wanted to do the right thing there, obviously. Now, what V2 is a fork, so we can't stop anyone from using V1. That's the whole point. It's permissionless, so you can still use V1 forever if you want to, but if you want to come to what we think will be the better fork, you should use V2. So what we did, basically, this was an insane amount of work, is we created a system that would rerun the history of V1, rerun all the transactions through an adapter that would cause them to be compatible with V2. And then once we did that, we took a snapshot of the resulting state and used that as the starting state of the V2 chain. And then beyond that, you actually have to take another step, which is insanely annoying, which is that blockchains aren't just state, right? As we know from inscriptions and everything, blockchains aren't just state. Blockchains are, indexers are super important in the blockchain ecosystem, and indexers work from events and not from state. So in addition to migrating the state, we had to come up with a way to emit a transfer event, a mint event for every single token and every single NFT, so the indexers would work. So if you go to explorer.facet.org, you check out the first block, you'll see there's about 4,000 transactions and about 4 billion gas spent emitting like hundreds of thousands of events to initialize everyone's balances on everything. So this would have been a lot easier if we didn't do that. So if you are a beneficiary of this, you are obligated legally to use and enjoy V2.
Yeah, fascinating. So then for some of the assets that were on V1, like Facet cards, if I minted some, do I have to do anything? Are these just immediately just kind of upgraded? Is there kind of a process to that?
No action required. It should be completely transparent. So if you use V1, you'll go to the Explorer and you'll go to your page and you'll just see, all your assets there. You'll see your ERC20s, you'll see your NFTs. Facet cards, we did a pretty big change there. So it will be the same, like you'll have the cards, but they work very differently now. That's a product that's now an ENS compatible name system. So it works off of Facet as well as Facet names. Now that's a whole other story, but everything will be there, but the Facet names are upgraded.
Awesome. And then one final thing for those who have ETH subscriptions, is there a way to move them over to Facet? Are there any e-subscription teams who are building anything like this?
So yeah, definitely. So we operate several e-subscriptions-based bridges that are for e-subscriptions-based tokens that have that became very popular use cases for e-subscriptions, and we love and support. The biggest one is the ETH token, who I always like to shout out the ETH community for supporting us. Anyone can create an e-subscriptions bridge. It is a challenge to run an e-subscriptions bridge because smart contracts can't know what e-subscriptions they own. So you have to have like some, indexer API stuff going on, but it's definitely possible. And we've done it in several cases, and we might do it for more cases. We love e-subscriptions and want to support e-subscriptions as much as possible.
Yeah, it's something that Emblem's also looking into, as well as we progress through our expansion campaign. So I know there are some e-subscription communities who have expressed interest in being able to basically upgrade alongside the protocol there. So outside of that, then, as we mentioned, it's token season. I need to know all about the Facet native token. First, can you just tell us a little bit at base level, what's the utility of this? How is it emitted? And if I'm somebody who's new to the Facet protocol right now, like how do I earn it?
Sure. So it's Facet Compute Token. The ticker is FCT. The ticker is FCT. So the purpose of this is really the most basic utility of any token, like in the EVM world, which is to make transactions on Ethereum, you pay gas. And the reason for that is so that one person doesn't just clog the network with like infinite loops and all this kind of stuff. You have to pay for your transaction based on the amount of gas it uses. And you pay in the native currency of the chain, which of course on Ethereum is Ether. And so you need a native currency for the EVM to work. And typically you have a bridge native currency that is operated by the admin that has privilege issues. So we needed to create something that allowed you to pay for gas, i.e. forced you to give something up, to lose something to use the network so that you didn't spam it. But we needed something that was not controlled by anyone. And so this was the idea of FCT, a completely neutral, uncontrolled, fair token. So one thing that this means is that there's no pre-allocation, pre-mine. Everyone starts at zero at block, 0. It's not like a good way for us to like make money from the, this is not like a typical token launch where we give ourselves some and whatever. This is a purely trustless, permission-free token. And the way you earn it is by creating Facet transactions. So anytime you create a Facet transaction, you earn an amount of FCT tied to the cost of your Ethereum transaction. So as I mentioned, Facet transactions are Ethereum transactions. So suppose you go to mint something on Facet. Well, you create an Ethereum transaction, and that Ethereum transaction is going to cost you some Ether, some gas units and some Ether. And the amount that it costs you is going to be, you're going to get an amount of FCT we minted to you in proportion to what it costs you on the L1 to do that. And the purpose of doing it this way is so that you don't have to get FCT first before you interact with Facet. Your very first Facet transaction will give you enough FCT to complete the transaction, and you'll have some left over without worrying about it. You could also mine it if you want to mine it without creating, by creating like Facet transactions designed to mine it. You can do that, but the simple, most basic utility is just you need it to use Facet, and you get it every time you use Facet.
Do you think this causes any friction for the user, where the I'm trying to think how to explain this. Do you think this causes any friction to the user of having to understand this mechanic that's attached to the token, kind of like this burn or Facet back, whereas something on like Ethereum or like Solana, it's just simple for a user to just know they just kind of buy it and use it within the ecosystem itself?
It's kind of choose your own adventure, sort of like, if you don't want to worry about it, you don't have to worry about it at all. Like if you are just a normal person who just wants to like mint something, do something fun, whatever, you will never have to worry about FCT. You'll never have to think about it. You will accrue a balance and you can look at it and like it, but you'll never, ever have to worry about it. And that's because the amount of gas available on Facet in Facet blocks is so high that you would have to be using so much gas to worry about FCT that if you're using that much gas, you're doing something weird, and we're trying to stop you. Basically, a normal user will never have to worry about it. They will always be able to mint enough in the background automatically to cover their transactions. And this is how Facet V1 works. You'd have to worry about gas at all if it exists. Now, if you want to worry about it, if you want to, accumulate it for whatever reason, if you are, interested in it, then you can. But the average user, I don't think will, and they don't have to. They never have to know it exists.
Got it. Understood. And so for the token standards that are on Facet, is it just a general ERC 721, 1155, and then ERC 20 for fungible tokens, or have you guys modified it in any way?
So the tokens that are on there now, just because they're migrated, excuse me, are ERC 20 and ERC 721. But anyone can deploy any contract. So if you want to be the first 1155 contract on there, maybe someone's already done this. If you want to create a custom token standard, the purpose of this upgrade is to allow copy paste and the use of other familiar tools. So anyone can, deploy any contract, any protocol, any system.
Understood. So from the development standpoint, have any ecosystem builders approached you about different types of applications that they will be building within the ecosystem?
So yeah, I mean, I think a good amount of interest. The FCT mechanism is interesting. Whether or not it's broadly like interesting, I don't know. But like to people who are interested in the development of Facet, that's been pretty interesting. Shout out WGW, who has created some interesting tools around that and asked some good questions and so forth, helped us. There's also interest from people who have found success on Facet V1. So for example, Piv launched his amazing collection from A to B. That was one of the craziest open editions we've seen, like 50,000, 60,000 mints, and this whole cool upgrade mechanic. And so we've been talking to him, maybe talking to him about some interesting things we might do on Facet. We'll see, but we're working with him on that. And the ETH community, as I mentioned, has been super supportive. So right now it's it's very, very early days. It's just launched, so the primary community is people who have been kind of with us for a while. But the purpose of this is to open it up in a way that allows you to engage, even if you have no knowledge of this whole history we've been through, and even if you are interested in us, personally, because it's just this kind of neutral public good.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just like I'm wondering what will be, what will attract a builder to build, the killer app on Facet. What's going to be their motivation to do that, right? Are you going to have a community of people there where they want to access that community, or is just going to be that it's okay? This is the narrative, is that this is basically the maybe least inexpensive or the most inexpensive way to interact with, Ethereum mainnet. What do you think is going to be the kind of going to move the needle for a builder?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think we're going to have to see, because, I think you could ask this very same question about Ethereum, right? Like about the blockchain. It's like how, and the blockchain's done a bad job with this. Like if you look at like people, like they hate the blockchain, right? It's like, why do you hate it? But like the thing, right, is all of this, the ideals of crypto, right? Like why would a developer ever build on Ethereum or anything? Why don't you just build a website, use Cloudflare, use Amazon? And it's like, well, Cloudflare and Amazon, Google, they can all shut you down, blah, blah, blah. So this is the thing that I think drew people to this whole ecosystem. And then somehow, this is an amazing trick that happens. People were like, oh God, the user experience, the cost, I can't take it. Okay, let me throw all my ideals out the window, basically. And that's where we are today. So we are advocating not for anything like radical or weird. We're just saying, hey, remember the part where you threw out all of the reasons that brought you here in the first place? Like, let's throw those, let's bring those back in and see if we can do something. So it might be too late, right? The ideals and everything might be too far away, but we think that it's worth a try, basically.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I mean, I'm just, as you're speaking, I'm thinking about, Base, right? And it's like, well, what's Base's value prop? Like, why would I go build on Base, right? It's gated, it's controlled by a company. But then I say, okay, well, the reason why is because, they have however many millions of users, right? So they have an in-ground kind of community of people who have wallets and apps on their phone and stuff, right? But then along with that, they've paid whatever. They pay X copy to come over and do an open mint, and they pay, I don't know, who knows? God knows what they've done over there, right? With the degen, tokens and pumping tokens, all this sort of stuff to try and create or generate interest. And we see how that, like with, I guess the perfect example is like Blast, like Pac-Man pulled his strings, gave a bunch of free money, and then it kind of just, I haven't heard about Blast in months now, right? So it's interesting. Your value prop, I think, in a lot of ways might actually speak to kind of core builders. Getting back to kind of the roots of Ethereum.
Yeah, I think it's like a long-term versus short-term value prop.
Yeah.
So if you have like a long-term vision for whatever you're building, I mean, I personally wouldn't build it somewhere that's gated. I would want to put it somewhere that, has a high likelihood of being around for 100 years, and that right now is, either Ethereum or now Facet. So, I mean, you don't really have many options.
And just to be clear, by the way, I pick on Base. I like Base. We are not like I would say even direct competitor. We're not trying to like kill base or like topple base. Like base doesn't have to lose for us to win at all. I like base. I use base. I find base fun to use, right? To me, it's more about just like, okay, the right tool for the job, use case, like it's okay. It's good for some L2s to be centralized and have these issues. Like there are many different use cases. Like you don't always need, the ideals that we're talking about here. What we're just saying is not every single one. Can we please have one maybe? And that's our goal, to be that one. And so, a rising tide type situation, we think over time, base is going to grow a lot. They're doing a great job. And we think for the use cases that we are good at, will also grow. So, I think it depends. Yeah, it depends on what you're trying to.
Totally get it. Actually, I would say the one thing that I know speakers are going to be or listeners are interested in, because I'm interested in it, is like, well, give me the secret sauce. Okay, say I want to actually mine this token, if that's what you're calling it, right? What's the most efficient way for me as an individual, right? Because it's early days. This is like whatever. Okay, it's an hour old, right? So I'm thinking, shoot, it's early days, man. This is it. Like, however many people are in this space, like this is all the people in the world that know about it right now, right? So there's an opportunity there. What's the most efficient way for me as an individual to earn that token?
Sure. So a couple of factors are just generally at play, right? One factor is L1 Ethereum gas prices. So the way that the mining works, it is based on gas units spent on Ethereum. So the higher the gas price, the higher the ether cost of those gas units are. So you want to mine in times of low Ethereum L1 gas. There is also an efficiency factor on FCT minting that relates to how much minting is happening. So you are benefited, you do a better job when you mint when fewer people are minting. It's kind of a regulation thing. So those are like the high level things. But in terms of the actual mechanics, there are tools for this. And I think someone should link WGW's thing where you can, the tool where you can observe this. He has a website and also a command line tool. And basically, it's just about constructing a special looking Ethereum transaction that has a bunch of basically junk data in it. It's kind of like a proof of block space, you could think of it, model, because you waste L1 block space, and that proves that you're spending the money to mine. So it's like basically it's like a special Ethereum transaction. So it's not a great answer because it's like kind of complicated, but you can see it docs.facet.org has a really complete explanation, and also this WGW tool, which, by the way, I don't know, this tool is like, I can't endorse anything as being 100% safe or whatever. I didn't program it, but I think it is a cool thing. So those are two resources. We should link that on our docs page, actually, but that's kind of how it works. Early days is a little confusing now.
Yeah, so you're basically saying, so right now ETH gas is 50. So you're saying that this would not be the most efficient time to optimize for facet mining, correct?
Well, it depends. Is gas going to 100? I don't know.
Yeah, who really knows?
Depends on your outlook.
So then I guess the next question is like, is there anything you can directly do right now on the network?
Yes, definitely. So one thing you can't do, unfortunately, is use our apps. So we have a bunch of apps like a Facet Swap, a DEX, an NFT app, and the Cards app. So we're bringing those up today. So that's going to be there, later today and tomorrow. But you can use our Explorer, which is explorer.facet.org. And that has all the functionality. It's called Block Scout, which is actually better than Etherscan. I'm just going to throw that out there with some, it's like, okay, Etherscan and Block Scout, like they basically do the same thing. One of them is open source, the other isn't. What's the math here exactly? So shout out Block Scout for doing an amazing job. Everyone check them out. But anyway, explorer.facet.org, and you can interact with smart contracts in the same way that you would with Etherscan. So you can transfer tokens, you can mint tokens if anyone has created an NFT, and so forth. But the normal user is going to want to use dApps and so forth, DEXs. So really, we just have to get these online, which will happen.
Yeah, we're working on bringing
soon.
all of our apps online, but if you're a developer though, go to our GitHub and you'll find a hard hat example. And I would just clone that, and you can basically you can deploy any contract that you can deploy on any other EVM on Facet. And so I would just clone that hard hat example repo, and then in there you can just start building out your contracts and then run the deploy script and start deploying them. So
Yeah,
that's what I would do.
This Explorer actually is really nice. I have it here pulled up on the live stream. So some of the stats so far that I see, average block time is 12 seconds. You have 42,000 wallet addresses. There's been 321 blocks, almost 5,000 transactions so far. So looking pretty good. Looks like a lot of these transactions are mostly contract calls. Maybe it's the deposit. Maybe it's deposits that I'm looking at here.
Those are every block's going to have one system transaction in it. And so right now, probably the majority are just going to be mining transactions. But while we work on getting our apps up and running on it. So yeah, I wouldn't expect there to be too many transactions until we get all of our apps up.
One fun thing is you go to blockchain on the sidebar and then click top accounts. You can see just like, I mean, I don't recognize any of these addresses, but just like the random people who have been accruing FCT. Like this is the top list of native currency on the blockchain. So that's kind of like a fun thing, just briefly to look at. You can see the activity there. As Michael says, there is a system transaction every block. The reason for that, and this is like kind of inside nerd baseball or whatever, but it was really important to us because, we wanted something very, standard and interoperable. Like this whole thing is a fork of Optimism. So that system transaction and the way all this stuff works, it's all taken from Optimism. Our goal was basically, copy paste as much as possible. Like they have an MIT license, and the purpose is so people find it, familiar. So, if you think we are up here saying like, blah, blah, crazy, everything's insane, we invented everything, everything's new. Not true. And you can look at all the codes open source, obviously, you'd be surprised how close it is to Optimism. We really spent a lot of effort only changing what we had to. So that's a core, value that we have. And what it also means is that if you're building a bridge, the bridges on this system work just like Optimism bridges. So, you've got the fraud proofs thing and the posting of the state roots and everything. So it's just like, it's really the same functionality, but just with the permissioned roles removed, essentially.
So it looks like here for the top holders, looks like there's 31 wallets so far that have acquired Facet token. The top one has about almost 1,800 FCT with 70 transactions. So there's definitely some people circulating around this, trying to find some value here. So pretty interesting, cool launch nonetheless. Chris, curious if you have any questions or any thoughts on Facet mainnet to V2 launch.
Yeah, man. I always love getting together with the Facet guys. You guys are a small, nimble team that really kind of like puts the tech first. And I think that's pretty similar to us at Emblem. And, you guys are always building in your own direction. You guys have this really kind of laser focus, and you kind of just are relentless in building that out. And so every time we talk to you guys are shipping new products and kind of just finding your way forward. So I think, now that, congrats first on mainnet launch, what is kind of like the next battle that you guys see, other than just kind of, getting random users? Where do you guys turn your focus to after kind of, passing this major milestone for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, there's two things kind of like, on the one hand, we need to deliver, value for normal people to use deliver value. And that means apps and creators on those apps, basically. So getting Facet Swap to great, getting Facet NFT to great, getting people to launch. And this has been really a lot of work for us to build all these apps, because typically if you're building the protocol, maybe you don't have to build every single app, but we are doing that because we need normal people to have something to do. Now, that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is, who cares about our apps, right? Like, these apps suck, or they're good. Actually, they're really good. But like in the grand scheme, people are going to think of even better apps. And so we have to get those people to build apps. And so that's the developer outreach component, and incentivizing developers and working with developers and, getting brand new apps built. So it's kind of like, basically it's a lot of work, but, we have to do kind of both sides of that coin. And yeah, I mean, if you want to get involved in Facet in any way, very early, we will, answer all your questions, help you, so please DM us. The DMs are open. If you want to use any app, you can use that too. If you don't want to do anything, you can also observe what's going to happen. So we want to cater to all the different use cases.
I love that. I also just, as far as I know, you guys were kind of more of like a Web2 team for a while, and then kind of came into kind of crypto and kind of observed, and then really kind of, picked up on the ideals and saw that nobody else was really building this. And then you kind of stepped up and built like this kind of more fully permissionless system. And I think that that's really awesome. Why do you think that less people have taken that path? Why do you guys think that you were the ones to finally have to step up and do it? Is it, I mean, I guess it would mostly be economical, but you guys never seem to put your economics before anything else. And I think that that's really crazy. Not crazy. I mean, like crazy in an awesome way. That you don't see, and we kind of stand by those principles ourselves. And so, what are you guys doing this for? How do you guys show up every day? And what's kind of like the mission, rather than just kind of building this out the way that you have been?
Sure. So, one thing to say is like, we have pretty strong principles and ideals and are trying to get in the lane and really like do, we have a pretty clear idea on what we're trying to accomplish, but we are not like, we're not like a nonprofit company, basically. Like, we're a for-profit company. We have shares of that. We are trying to build something really valuable. We're trying to make a lot of money. We're just trying to do it in a way that's consistent with these other ideals that we have. So we're not coming out to, and whatever, we love this stuff. Obviously, we wouldn't do it if we didn't, but we're not coming out purely to, benefit the world. We're coming out to benefit the world, and also we're trying to make, money for ourselves, but we're not doing it. We're doing it a different way. But to answer your question, like, kind of as I was saying earlier, like, it's very, very weird, because if you were here from the beginning in Ethereum, from the beginning, because I wasn't, right? I came in pretty late in 2021 and 2022, and I could tell you my crypto origin story and blah, blah, blah. I have all these thoughts. But if you were from the beginning, you probably felt something like this. Okay, we are struggling. The price of ETH is going up and down so much. ICOs, DeFi, blah, blah. Oh, this is so expensive. This is exhausting. Oh, finally, like, I'm at the end of my rope, and now there's a way that a normal person might actually use crypto on a centralized L2 because it's cheap and fast. Finally, okay, life preserver, like, fine. But then when you come into crypto late, you don't have to, I didn't have to go through all that pain. I came in late. I was like, I don't understand any of this stuff. Wait a minute, this is sick. This is great. What do why are we not doing this more or whatever? So I think coming into it on the later side helps with the just idealism. But yeah, I mean, I'm also not like, I don't like to really like admit this, but I'm not like a huge like Ether holder myself, personally. And so there's all kinds of like debates about like, well, maybe L2s are good for Ether price, but maybe that's not as good for decentralized. There's these tensions basically, like optimizing for Ether, the asset. And so, I think there's something there. Maybe like every time I buy, it's not just Ether, anytime I buy any crypto asset, I just lose all my money instantly because I always sell at zero, basically. But maybe that's it. But I have no idea. I would love to talk to people about this, but we, we're yeah.
Well, how do you guys see, like, what is your strategy to actually make money? What I'm assuming it's tools or marketplaces or something you're going to build. What's your guys' current strategy, if you can share that?
Sure. So yeah. So basically, the stuff you just mentioned. I mean, we're building a lot of apps now, and not all of those apps will be, things that we are trying to make into the best in class thing, basically. So like Facet NFT is like a great example of this. Like, same thing happened with descriptions. Like, if some major, player in NFT marketplace comes along and outcompetes Facet NFT, like, maybe that'll happen. Maybe it won't. Like, we love Facet NFT, but like, we're not going to be able to build best in class apps across every single vertical. That's insane. But we are going to build some apps across many verticals just because, we got to get it going. There are some verticals where we will be building major best in class apps, and we will be, leveraging, all the assets that we have as builders, being part of the protocol. We're also going to be building best in class tooling. So, for example, today, if you want to use Facet, you need an RPC endpoint. So you can use mainnet.facet.org. That's free, and we intend to keep that free, forever. But if you want to do really high volume stuff, blah blah, there's all kinds of use cases for paid services. There is a problem, right? Which is that if you don't give yourself permissions as special boys and girls in the protocol, then you cannot absolutely prevent other people from coming in and outcompeting you on everything, right? Like, this is the beauty of writing yourself into the protocols. No one can ever outcompete you. You cannot do better than Coinbase on Base. Sorry, I'm picking on them again. So we are more vulnerable in that way, but because of our memes, like, we gotta take that risk. But that's basically our plan.
It's been interesting watching the evolution of your guys' progress. You guys started out with ETH-scriptions, kind of following in the footsteps of inscriptions, where it's just this idea of like putting data on chain, right, in forms of an NFT, so to speak. And that approach is kind of what I call a horizontally owned protocol. What I mean by that is, like, you created the assets themselves, and then the community basically builds out the application layer. What happens here is you guys have almost transitioned to what's like a vertically owned protocol, where you have to build out the applications as well as the protocol itself. And there's a few other ordinal, or I guess you could say Bitcoin meta protocols that have followed this suit as well, like BRC20, which is now kind of owned by Unisat, that has to build out the application layer. And then there's another similar one on Bitcoin, I'm not sure if you're familiar, called Tap Protocol, which also had to end up building the protocol itself, Tap, which is similar to BRC20. And then they also are building out the application layer kind of itself. The only difference between that is that both of those teams are heavily VC funded. So they have the funds to go in and incentivize users to build these different types of applications, or they can build their own, and then they can also heavily incentivize different people to build these. You guys are a little bit kind of on the outside here, where you're going with this decentralized approach, and the incentive here is actually built into the token itself. Maybe that's enough to incentivize users. Maybe that's not, but it's been interesting to kind of follow the progress and the different types of approach. Whether, let's say 6 months from now, you're looking at this, you guys have built a handful of applications. What would you like that outcome to look like? Is it something similar where you build one or two applications and there's winners? Is there a certain type of, sector of protocols that you think are more relevant on Facet because it's more of like a decentralized L2 than some of these other kind of centralized sequencing layer 2s?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. 6 months from now, a year from now, 6 months, excuse me, is an eternity, basically, right? In this fast-moving world of crypto, and so, when you zoom out that far, like, to me, it just comes down to like the basic, like, North Star is a meme, right? Like, what is the super high level North Star, blah, blah, blah. And for me, that's just the narrative, basically. If in 6 months, we can have people, just normal people who are, into technology roll-ups, people usually, we can have people appreciate the narrative of Facet, i.e. that there should be something out there, a roll-up out there that is, has these properties built for hard times, then I think that's a huge win, even if it's not Facet, right? Like, it should be Facet, we're the only one. But like, if we can make people aware of this issue and get people to start to value something that comes up with a solution, and we think that something is Facet, I think that will be a huge win, because I cannot, it's tough because we're here. Y'all are, obviously part of our, we've talked and known each other for so long and everything, but like, and so you're pretty receptive to these ideas. When you talk to the broader, roll up community, like these ideas that we're putting out there, like there's a reason we're the only one. These are not mainstream ideas. And so just to get those ideas to cross over a little bit, we think the rest will take care of itself.
Yeah. When I look at these other two protocols that I mentioned, with Unisat and kind of building out their kind of tech stack with BRC20, they ended up building kind of where you guys were. They started with BRC20, then they built something called Fractal, which is like a Bitcoin sidechain, which then they brought over BRC20. But actually the winning use case has been the community developing something called Cat20, which was native to the protocol itself. And I think that's finally allowed them to find further adoption. When I look at TAP protocol, they had their own native asset TAP, but it seems like kind of the winning protocol over there is actually also a community created digital asset protocol called DMT. So something that I'll be personally looking for is to see if Facet attracts a new type of digital asset creation that's created by a community, because I do think you need that type of that kind of like randomness, that type of like spontaneity that comes to these protocols, something similar to like a Bitcoin moment where it's like the kind of free and fair, whether that's actually Facet the token or somebody else comes in and builds their own, I think is definitely something to look for.
Hell yeah. The door, the door is open. I think we want to be helpful, but hopefully it's something that we never even thought of. We can't stop it. We might try. No, we're not going to try, but we can't, even if we try.
So wait, is there a big just want to clarify, there's no hidden foundation with billions of dollars to give out to developers? Just want to confirm that.
Yeah, there is no super secret foundation that I would never reveal, even if it existed, because I can't. I'd get in trouble. No, there's no foundation. It's
hidden Vitalik Foundation supporting.
So I just got a DM from somebody in the community that's built something for Facet. The website is fctmines.com. It looks like you can spend Ethereum to mine Facet in some way. So if anyone's interested in it, I guess this might be the best or most straightforward way to acquire FCT. Granted, right, I don't know how legit it is or if it works, but I have seen this person in the community quite often. So it does seem
and that
like
would just be spinning transactions. Is that right? Just basically spinning transactions.
I also posted, shared at the top of the space, the tweet from WGW. That's the one that Tom mentioned about 10 minutes ago. This is one where the code is both a web app that you can use, or you can also in it is linked directly to the GitHub where you can download it, run it locally on your own browser if you want to be more secure and manage it that way. And all the code is viewable and you can interrogate it and validate it for yourself. Facet, the team, we have not released any mining apps. So, DYOR on any approach that you use. We don't make any claims or, security claims on any of these different kind of third-party apps that people are pushing out.
I do love seeing the development though.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
What were you saying?
Or Mitch, go ahead.
I was just saying I do love the development though of the different mining apps. Like I almost don't want to make one just because it forces other people to make them and get creative. So, but I will say I think it would be sick if one of the mining tools allowed you to put like a target like on what you want to spend per FCT when you're mining. So that way you could be like, I don't want to spend more than like, 5 cents per FCT or something. So whenever the price goes under 5 cents, then start mining. But as soon as it goes over 5 cents, then stop mining. I think that would be pretty sick.
Yeah, that's kind of like that's where a lot of these like AI agents are kind of being built towards, is to do these type of conditional things, which would definitely help. You know, it's funny actually.
Yeah.
It's funny looking at both of these on the live stream, both of these mining apps, because they're literally probably as most straightforward as possible. There's like literally one thing you can.
Yeah.
There's literally one.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's just type in a
It's
number
awesome.
and hit click
Yeah.
mining.
It's sick.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah. I would recommend. I think this is very healthy to the ecosystem. Like it's showing that you can essentially have a decentralized application layer, because I think that's what most users want, right? I mean, it's good for the team to come out and build a lot of these, but generally when you see people gravitating towards the same idea initially, means that there's general interest and that there's an actual there's a trajectory on where the entrance is for simple users like myself who have no idea how to code and just want to click buttons and make money, hopefully.
Yeah, I actually do want to comment though on something you were talking about earlier when you were talking about vertical, horizontal, as far as like application layers and what the team is building. I really don't see this any different than when we were building e-scriptions. You know, like we built a protocol that anyone could build applications on. And the same is true for Facet. We don't have to build any of these applications. It's the same, you know, we're building these applications the same for the same reason that we built escriptions.com, which was, you know, a place that you could see and trade e-scriptions on day one. And well, actually, I don't know if it was day one, maybe it was like day two, but it was pretty early on. You know, that's the reason we're building these applications for Facet, is just to give people somewhere to see what's happening. But by no means is any of this like dependent on us. You know, Facet is like the Bitcoin of rollups, and it's really the only one. You know, Tom and I could disappear tomorrow, and it could be living on 100 years from now.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. One of the reasons I bring it up is that there's this, I guess it's an operational challenge on that a lot of teams fall into. Emblem actually falls into this, this kind of trap or situation as well. Is, you know, you build a new protocol or you build a new product, but then you need the users generally need something to do, whether it's speculate on a token, right? Or kind of mine a token, right? Or there's some sort of gamified application to go into. And it's really tough when it's a, you know, a one of one type protocol, right? Emblem's a one of one protocol. Facet's a one of one. There's really nobody else in each of our kind of markets. So trying to figure out what that is, what's that thing that's going to interest people to generate, you know, awareness to then bring in new users, is really challenging. And what I mean is like, there are these teams that start off with this like horizontal approach where it's like, hey, I'm just going to build a project and let the application layer be decentralized. But there was nothing initially that attracted people. So then they kind of fall into this vertically owned, because now you kind of have to build yourself out of it. And you know, there's no right way. There's no right way to it. And sometimes it's successful, sometimes it's not. It's just interesting when you see this kind of trend happening, because again, Emblem falls in this bucket. And there's a handful of other ones kind of as well.
Yeah, I think what our approach is really is just to, you know, build out something, you know, the things that are necessary. And not, like Tom was saying, like not even make it like the best that it could be, you know, because we want other applications to come around and build, you know, have other teams like build, you know, better apps on Facet than us. Like we can't have, you know, we don't have the capacity to maintain all of these different applications forever. And so, you know, initially we just have, you know, very simple apps that exist with the long-term goal of, you know, having other people, you know, build even better ones. But yeah, I think that like the thing that is going to attract people to Facet would be the ideals of the blockchain. You know, the same ideals that would have brought you to Ethereum back in the day. And then at the same time, you know, if you were to speculate on the token, there are many things that you could do to, as like a creator, not just as a user to mine FCT, for example. One thing that Indelible Labs is doing, which is on-chain NFT creator, is it's building out a contract that is kind of like a middleman for the Facet transactions. And so whenever you deploy a contract or you mint an NFT on Facet, and this isn't live yet, Indelible Labs, the application can be mining FCT by people using its application. And so I think that's something interesting too. And then what happens then is applications that are mining FCT can then maybe come up with creative ways to share that FCT with its users or something. So
yeah, I completely agree. So one of the builders of one of the applications I showed on screen said, I see Facet as Bitcoin in the beginning, zero supply initially, it's weird, and with not much utility. So that's exactly to what Michael was just saying, that those who are going to be attracted to this type of protocol in the beginning are going to be those who really respect the original cypherpunk type ethos.
Actually, can
Exactly.
you guys give a breakdown of the tokenomics, how they're going to be released and halvings and that sort of stuff?
Sure. So the mechanism, so FCT, we tried to basically create as little as possible, right? We want to use familiar things. So Bitcoin has two mechanisms for determining how much Bitcoin is out there. So one of them is this halving thing that Bitcoin has, which is the issuance rate cuts in half every 4 years-ish. And what that means is eventually you stop issuing any at all because it goes to zero. The other thing Bitcoin has is the difficulty, where the difficulty of creating a block determines how frequently blocks are created, and that also determines how many Bitcoin are created. And that difficulty changes based on how frequently blocks are created. If blocks are created more frequently than 2 weeks, then the difficulty goes up, and vice versa. So that's Bitcoin. We try to adopt the same thing. So for us, every single block today on Facet has a target issuance of 40 FCT. Okay. Every year that gets cut in half. So that means after a certain amount of time, it'll go to zero, which means there's a supply cap. Now, every year is more aggressive, of course, than Bitcoin's 4 years, but it's still, pretty reasonable. So every year that 40 gets cut in half. Now, what actually happens might be different from 40, because there is a rate that people can mint FCT at in every block. And by taking the amount of gas they spend and multiplying, by the rate, you get the FCT. And if that ends up being more than 40, then the rate will go down. And if it ends up being less than 40, the rate will go up. So the point of the system is to keep the mint rate at the target, which again starts at 40 and then gets cut in half every year. And that should lead, all of this math together, should lead to about 210 million total supply, eventual total supply. And that's about 10x Bitcoin, because we wanted to use the Bitcoin meme, but also having there be a little more room for precision with the decimals. So 210 maximum supply is the theory.
Why wouldn't you go with just like a kind of tail emission schedule, more like Doge or something that has like infinite supply? What was your thought process behind not doing kind of unlimited tail emission?
We liked Bitcoin. I think that it also is easy to understand. Unlimited tail is still limited, right? Because as it's like time value of money, that kind of thing. It's like, what's the value of something like 100 years from now or whatever? So it's not that different, but I think it's like having the cap is kind of just like more intuitive and familiar, but no sort of.
When does it cap out? How many years?
It's a good question. Jeremy, you did that spreadsheet.
I think it was like 10 or 12 years. I mean, effectively after 8 or 9 years, like the emission rate is so small that it's quite insignificant. So
right. And the other thing to think about with this halving thing,
winning blocks in a traditional sense, it's more like everybody who pays in is getting a percentage of each individual block. kind of thing, rather than
Right. And the way that you,
Well, it's not a percentage of the block.
Okay.
It's not like every block it gets 40 and you get a percentage of 40. There's a rate that is a rate of how much FCT you get per compute purchased on the L1 transaction, and that rate changes depending on the demand. And so at a low rate, someone could go way over 40. Like, I mean, people could go, you could fill an entire Ethereum block with call data, and at a pretty low rate, I mean, you would get a lot more than 40. And so that's why the max supply is not really like a hard max supply, because at times of low rate or high rate, depending on how you look at it, what direction you're going, I mean, you could take advantage of it and get a lot during cheaper moments.
How can you, I mean, these are questions people are going to start hitting you up with in the Discord, right? First, they're literally going to ask you when this is going to be on Binance. Second thing they're going to ask you is, well, if it's not going to be on Binance, where can I sell this, right? So, are you guys going to think about building someplace where this can, either a DEX?
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't want to be the ones to be responsible for initiating any of that, because all of this could happen by anyone. Natively on Facet Swap, if someone wanted to, they could create a pool for wrapped FCT, and then pair that with wrapped ETH or wrapped USDC, or I guess it wouldn't be wrapped USDC, it would just be USDC. But and then once that happens, then the market can decide on the price there.
Yeah, I mean, the important thing to, this is different, and just to say, maybe this makes it not so good for some people, but this is not like your traditional token investment opportunity. This isn't something where we are going out there and saying, hey, we're on the side doing all this stuff to make this moon and blah, blah, Binance, everything. What you see is what you get. It's like a computer program, basically. Any price increase that happens is programmed in from the start, because none of this is going to, change. So the only thing that you can wonder about is basically how the world is going to look at the computer program, the formula for this, and then also the utility factor, which is how much are people going to use this token to pay for transactions. But there's no behind the scenes us working to create some profitable situation. It's really just this kind of Bitcoin approach, computer program approach. All of it's priced in. This the scheme is immutable. But we want to we're always happy to answer questions about any of this stuff. So if you are in the Discord and you want to ask about Binance, we will answer your question, and we got love for all kinds of token lovers.
Wow. Yeah, man, I'm really excited for you guys. It's going to be a mission, but it's going to be a fun adventure. There's definitely a need for decentralized products, and unfortunately, it's becoming much more of a limited sensation as crypto progresses. Less focus on decentralized products, more on permissionless moving forward. But I think we'll wrap it up here. I'm going to be participating. I'm going to try to use one of these mining apps here, maybe later today, to see if I can mine some Facet. Chris or Adam, do you guys have any final questions or comments?
Maybe for me, I love the talk about just kind of building for an adversarial kind of environment, and I think that that's missed by a lot of teams. And it's really overlooked until it's not. So have you guys kind of war gamed it out at all to see kind of what that might look like, what maybe the adversarial moments might be that might kind of shine the light on something like Facet? Have you guys thought about that at all?
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to hope for bad things to happen. So it's kind of like that kind of thing. But, I think it really to pick on Coinbase again. right? Like Coinbase freezing people's accounts, right? This is a meme, right? Like, why does Coinbase freeze people's account? Well, probably not because Coinbase is trying to ruin things for no reason. Probably because there are reasons for this that maybe you don't see, and pressures and regulations. You know, it's like you see people, and I don't want to predict anything. I have no idea about the law of any of this. I don't want to sound off on the law or any of this kind of stuff. I'm not an expert. I don't want to say, you know, it's just whatever. But I'm saying, imagine you have people on one side on Twitter going crazy, complaining about Coinbase doing this stuff over here, and then on the other side, you have everyone, you know, not pumping, but talking about Base and its favorable qualities. And it's like, you know, when would the twain meet? Like, I don't know. I don't know anything about like legal or regulatory side. I want to weigh in on that. But my point is, it's just not that hard, I don't think, to imagine in your head how things could play out. But I hope that, you know, we prepare for hard times, and that, you know, I don't want hard times to come, but I do think we should prepare just in case.
Yeah, I mean, no one wants hard times to come, but
they do come.
They always come. There's nothing you can do to stop hard times from coming.
Agree.
So
Awesome.
Hate those times.
Hate those times.
Awesome, guys. Well, you know, I appreciate having you guys on the show as always. I look forward to maybe next quarter, towards the end of, you know, maybe in March or something. Maybe in the middle of March, we'll circle back here and
yes,
and have a conversation about the progress of everything that we just had. So, dude, guys, best of luck. And really appreciate what you guys are doing. It's definitely not a mission, you know, that is generally valued from, you know, the new entrants, but a lot of those who express the cypherpunk ideals definitely appreciate it. So, awesome, guys.
Hell yeah, let's rock this thing. Thanks so much for having us.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. For everyone that enjoyed the show, we host the show Tuesday through Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. Tomorrow, we're going to be back with our market discussion, talking everything from the Magic Eden airdrop to, I guess, BlackRock taking over the industry, trying to commandeer Bitcoin, I'm seeing. So who really knows? These are the kind of fun discussions that we have. Make sure that you follow the Emblem account so you can see all of the cool things that we are doing. We just announced last week our expansion campaign where Emblem is going to deploy on every single major EVM chain, Solana, and Bitcoin, right? So we can hopefully take your e-scriptions to Facet sometime in the near future, as well as Emblem keys that we'll be releasing in 2025. So until then, everyone stay safe out there. Have a good time, and we'll see you back here tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time.
Hey, and guys, check us out if you don't mind. I know you guys brought